I really need advice. A few weeks ago, I went through his hard drive and found evidence that he was constantly sexting and slept with his ex-girlfriend the entire first year of our relationship, all of 2019 and some of 2020. I found all the texts, several Snapchat videos he saved from her to self-intimacy to, videos he sent her back, her touching herself for him, dancing naked in front of the mirror for him. Very graphic shoot, all dated after we had already started dating. He never stopped talking to her after we started dating. He even admitted to dating us both at the same time for a while, before she moved away for college. He talked to her the same way he talks to me. Same nicknames, same emojis, the exact same way to say I love you and good night. He admitted to cuddling her after intimacy, and that simply unalives me. Eventually, I guess it ended, and he just continued his relationship with me like nothing had happened. He moved across the country to be with me after I got my first job out of college. We've been living together for almost the entire time we've been dating, but he never stopped talking to her. He went to see her in California last year and told me they kissed but didn't have intimacy because she didn't want to. I saw their Discord messages, and they constantly had several 3-hour-long calls. He says they were just working together in silence because at that point they were just friends. When I found out, he came clean with everything. Said there was no point in lying now that everything is destroyed. My entire world is shattered. Not for a second would I have ever believed he'd be capable of this. I've been having PTSD symptoms for 3 weeks now. I constantly cycle through intense anger, intense upset, and crying spells and numbness. I find it hard to sleep or eat. He convinced me to go to couples counseling because he said it might help me heal, even if we don't stay together. Bought a handful of books on infidelity, and says he realizes he's scum and a monster, and that he wants to do anything in his power to help me heal from what he did to me. He did block her, not immediately, and he did call her to tell her he was blocking her, which also angers me for some reason. He put my fingerprint on his phone and gave me the password for all his devices. He even permanently shared his location with me on Google Maps. He let me go through everything, but he almost completely wiped his phone before he let me do that. I really wanted to read the rest of his conversations with her, but he freaking deleted it before I could. Now he says he regrets deleting it because he realizes I needed it for healing. But what's done is done, and nothing he's tried brought the text messages back. He didn't have an iCloud backup, specialized software didn't find the messages, and his carrier also doesn't have them. Anyway, just last month he wanted to break up to find himself. But he says this whole thing was a huge wake-up call for him, and he wants to stay together. He lost several pounds after I found out and kicked him out of the house. He's skin and bones now, and I can see his ribcage. He says he's extremely remorseful. Wishes he had never done it. Wishes he had cut contact with her the moment he met me. He talked about how he had thought of marrying me and spending the rest of his life with me, and even talking about breaking up. He was thinking of coming back after a while. Part of me does believe he is actually regretful and remorseful. He never blamed me for anything, and he took all of my insults and name-calling and I hate yous with, I know, you're right, I'm scum, I'm a bad person. He sits with me patiently through the hours I spend crying and screaming at him. He says he knows I don't trust him and won't trust him for a really long time. But he says he wants to do anything necessary to show me with his actions that he has changed and that he'll never do anything remotely like this to me again. No matter how long it takes, I'm so extremely confused. Every single one of my friends thinks going to couples therapy with him and considering staying together is a mistake. The books he's bought say that some couples are capable of coming back from an affair, and some even come out of it stronger. And the thing is that he was really an amazing boyfriend. We always got along well, he always had a growth mindset. Every time we had issues with anything, he listened to what I had to say and actually took steps to change what was necessary for him to be a better person and a better boyfriend. He says he's shown he can change in the past, and that he'll do it again for me. He was loving and caring, took care of me when I was sick or had to have surgery, with no complaints. Always did special things for me on my birthday, Valentine's Day, holidays. We rarely ever fought, and when we did, he was attentive and listened to all my complaints and tried to do better. I feel like all of those memories are tainted now because of what he's done. I can't even look at him without feeling disgust. I'm moving back to my home state to be with friends, and he's following, even though he never wanted to go back. He's going to live with his parents for a while, and I'm going back to living with my college roommate. He says he doesn't care that he has to move back if it means he has a chance to still try to work on us. He said that this was a wake-up call to make him realize he wants to spend the rest of his life with me. Even talked about marriage and kids. Is this something we can come back from? Right now, it feels impossible to get over these strong emotions of anger, upset, and disgust. Am I just being naive? Surely someone who lied and hid this from me for 5 years is capable of doing it again? I've never loved anyone like I loved him. That's why it hurts so damn much. Is there any insight here that I am missing? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Every day you allow him to be part of your life is a mistake. If this is a wake-up call for him, great. He can be woken up with somebody else, and you can find somebody who has an ounce of respect for you and will not go behind your back like this. And this wasn't just back in 2019-20. He went to see her in California last year and told me they kissed, but didn't have intimacy because she didn't want to. I saw their Discord messages, and they constantly had several 3-hour-long calls. He actively cheated on you last year, and the only reason he didn't have intimacy with her is because she didn't want him. He is pulling out all the stops to say the right things and tell you what you want to hear. But his actions already said everything. And even if he changes and is great moving forward, he won't be. It will never undo that betrayal. Comment 2. First of all, I'm sorry. What he did is fricked up. And I'm sorry for you. Consider taking some time to heal whatever decision you come up with. My advice, it's you who should choose, simple as that. If you decide to leave him, cut him out completely. It's odd to say, but you need to forget him completely to be able to move on. If instead you stay with him, make your relationship something new, make an effort, and make sure he does as well. And consider it as if it were a new relationship entirely. It'll help. The ball is in your court, and the choice is yours. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So, I moved back home, right? And guess what? He followed me, just like he said he would. But here's where things get wild. The day after he moves back, his ex shows up out of nowhere. Turns out, she's been talking to him again. She's pregnant and claims it's his. My world already cracked, shatters into a million pieces. I confront him, and he swears he didn't know, that they hadn't been in touch since he blocked her. But I don't buy it. How could I? The trust is long gone. He begs me to believe him. Says he'll take a paternity test. Anything to prove his innocence. But I can't shake the feeling that he's lying. That he's been lying all along. While we're waiting for the paternity test results, I'm staying with my old college roommate, and she's been a rock. She tells me I need to think about myself, that I've been too forgiving. And she's right. I've been too caught up in what he wants, trying to fix something that's been broken from the start. The test results come back, and it's like a punch in the gut. He's the father. He comes over crying, saying he didn't know, that it must have been from before he moved to be with me. But it's too late for excuses. I tell him it's over, for good this time. He pleads, but I've made up my mind. Then, as if things couldn't get any worse, I lose my job. The company's downsizing, and just like that, I'm out of work. It's like everything's falling apart at once. But maybe it's a blessing in disguise. It gives me time to think, to figure out what I want without him in the picture. I start looking for new jobs, and I'm hitting wall after wall. But then, out of the blue, I get a call. It's a company I applied to ages ago, and they want me to come in for an interview. I nail it, and they offer me the job on the spot. It's a fresh start, something I desperately need. He tries to reach out to congratulate me, but I don't need his validation anymore. I'm moving on, building a new life for myself. It's tough, but I'm tougher. I've learned the hard way that I can't depend on someone else for my happiness. Thanks for reading. My partner spends our joint savings on his friend and plans a new life with her. So I drain his bank account and leave him stranded with nothing. I, 32, female, and my 35 male partner are having issues. We've had a blow-up, again about a female friendship of his. For context, the two of them have known each other for years. They are both musicians who played in a band together years ago and often work together on current music projects. They are very close, which for the most part, I support. But there are things that cross the line of appropriate behavior for me, and this often makes me feel uncomfortable. Short summary below. In the past, I have found messages between the two of them discussing problems in our relationship. At the time, I was completely unaware of these issues as my partner had not communicated any of this with me. On one occasion, he went into intimate detail about his negative feelings towards my physical appearance. This actually caused us to break up for a week. He seems to make an effort with her in a way that he does not with anyone else, including me. For example, he often buys new clothes before they see each other. Side note, this behavior in itself is obviously not an issue, but it does contribute to my paranoid feelings. He seems to drop everything for her. Most recently, she asked him to produce her current album. He is not a music producer, but dips his toes in producing for fun. As a result, he has taken 4 days of annual leave to do this with her. A few weeks ago, I was booking tickets to travel interstate to visit my father's grave. He died 1.5 years ago, and I haven't been to his gravesite since shortly after the burial. He did not want to take even 1 day of annual leave to accompany me, citing he did not have enough leave. He also purchased over $1,000 of music equipment to work on this project while owing me $1,000 for household bills. Side note, she will not reimburse him for any of this. She did offer to pay for his time off work, but he refused. She lives overseas and is coming down to produce this album with him. They had planned to stay in an Airbnb, alone together, for 1 week to work on this. We live in the city that they're planning to do this, so it's not as if they're working interstate and need somewhere to stay, which of course would be a different story. This has made me extraordinarily uncomfortable. For further context, we have been dating for 2.5 years. She is single, divorced for about 3 years, and in and out of polyamorous relationships. When I confront my partner with my feelings of insecurity and discomfort, I am often made to feel jealous and paranoid. The last argument we had, he rolled his eyes and said, "You're dating a musician, what do you expect?" Which made me feel like I simply do not get it. I would really appreciate any honest thoughts, advice on this. Thank you. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I don't think you are being at all unreasonable. He seems to prioritize her over you with time, effort, and money. You say you found messages, so it definitely sounds like there are trust issues too. I would certainly be wary of his behavior though, and I do not like that he is dismissive of your concerns. Comment 2. It does not sound like this is something that is going to change on his end. Whether you are being reasonable or unreasonable is not the right question. Either you accept that this somewhat strange friendship of his is important to him and part of the package, or you walk away. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around. A lot has happened since I last wrote. So, the Airbnb stay happened, and it was worse than I feared. I found out they weren't just working on music. They were out late every night, and there were pictures of them looking way too cozy on social media. It felt like a slap in the face. I confronted him, and he brushed it off, saying they were just celebrating their hard work. But then, the real news dropped. Turns out my partner had been funneling money from our joint savings into her project. Money we were saving for a house. I couldn't believe it. I felt so betrayed. I mean, it's one thing to be emotionally invested in someone else, but to gamble our future like that? It was a new low. I was furious, and we had a massive fight. He tried to justify it by saying he believed in her music and that it was a good investment. But I wasn't having any of it. I demanded he pay back every penny, or I was done. He agreed, but I could tell he thought I was overreacting. While he was scrambling to fix the financial mess, I did some digging of my own. I reached out to a friend who's a bit of a tech whiz. I had a hunch there was more to the story, and I was right. My friend managed to recover deleted messages from his phone. And there it was, clear as day. He'd been lying to me about the nature of their relationship. They weren't just friends. They were planning to start a new life together. She was going to leave her polyamorous relationships, and he was going to leave me. I was devastated, but also vindicated. I had proof that I wasn't just paranoid. I confronted him with the messages, and he couldn't deny it anymore. He broke down, apologizing, saying he was confused and made a mistake. But it was too late. I'd seen the real him, and I couldn't unsee it. I moved out that week. It was tough, but I had support from friends and family. I stayed with a friend for a while, trying to get my bearings, but then another twist. His music partner reached out to me. She was apologetic, saying she didn't know he was taking money from our savings, and that she thought he was single when they started their affair. I didn't know what to believe, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. I told her to keep away from me and that I wanted nothing to do with either of them. She seemed genuinely remorseful, but I couldn't care less. I was too busy picking up the pieces of my life. In the aftermath, I started to rebuild. I got a new place, focused on my work, and began to heal. It wasn't easy, but I was determined to come out stronger. And then, just when I thought I was getting back on track, he showed up at my new apartment, begging for forgiveness. He said he'd left her, that it was all a huge mistake and that he wanted me back. But I wasn't the same person he left behind. I'd grown and I'd learned my worth. I told him it was too late, that I couldn't trust him again. He left, and I closed the door on that chapter of my life for good. Looking back, I'm grateful for the lessons learned. It was a tough couple of weeks, but I came out on the other side. I'm moving forward one step at a time. Thanks for reading. My fiancé ignores my wishes to wait until marriage, and his sister spreads lies about me cheating. So I kick her out and cancel the wedding, leaving him alone and jobless. Okay, so my fiancé and I have been engaged for like 2 months now, but we've been dating for a little over a year. We both want to wait until after marriage to have intimacy. So we set some boundaries for us to follow. But I am the only one trying to follow them. And the reason we have the boundaries is because he did push too far, and we almost had intimacy, like no clothing was on. And he almost did it dry, but my brain caught up and I said, nope. More like brain and fear. I don't have the best experience in the past. Anyway, it seems that every time we are together, he is pulling me into his room to cuddle. Which normally would be fine, but his form of cuddling is me straddling his lap and having a makeout session. And when I tell him I'm not in the mood or we should stop, he always is pushing and always saying things like, "Are you sure?" or "I think you want more," or "But you're pulling me in." That last one pisses me off because I make sure not to have my hands on his head or neck or shoulders because he will pull that one all the time. Another thing is if I say no to a makeout session and try to get him off of me, or I get off of him, he will throw a tantrum and completely get off me and turn his back to me and go on his phone. He will ignore me for the next 5-15 minutes because I didn't want to make out with him. I know he loves me and I love him, but I shouldn't be scared of the idea of marriage just because he wants to have intimacy and have children. How do I talk to him and get him to understand that I'm not comfortable with only making out or kissing when we are together? He knows I'm not touchy-touchy, yet he won't respect me when I tell him no. Update. Okay, so I've read some comments and I want to clarify a few things. First of all, the no intimacy before marriage is something we both want. We are both religious, and I know that a lot of you are saying to just do it, but no, we want to stick to our values. Second, when I tell him no and he throws a tantrum, I have had to tell him no multiple times before he stops. I'm okay with small kisses, heck even a little makeout, but the fact that he constantly wants to do more, we can go from making out to him biting my chest and thighs, to him trying to take off my shirt. And that's why I don't want to just lay down with him to cuddle, because if I give him an inch, he takes a mile. That is why we set a boundary, and that's why I try to follow them, because he can't stop himself. He says that he will stop it before it goes too far, but he never does. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. The pressure and ignoring your boundaries will not improve with marriage. Instead of making out, it will be considered intimacy attack. I usually say that waiting until marriage is a terrible idea, because if it turns out you're sexually incompatible, then it's a messy process to divorce. But here you're already learning how you're sexually incompatible. He treats you like an object that he's entitled to use when he feels like it. Comment 2. Girl, you've been together for a year and you're engaged to a man who won't take no for an answer. Forget the marriage question altogether. You should not be dating someone who throws a tantrum when you say no to intimacy. Someone who doesn't respect no before marriage won't magically respect no after marriage. A year is way too soon to be engaged at your ages, and this situation is a perfect demonstration of why. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around to hear more of this mess. So, last week, things took a turn for the worse. My fiance's sister, who's been living with us for a while, decided to stick her nose where it doesn't belong. She overheard us arguing about the boundaries, and instead of minding her own business, she went and told my fiance that I'm probably cheating on him because I don't want to get physical. Can you believe that? Her words were like gasoline on the fire. My fiance, already frustrated, started questioning my every move. He'd check my phone when I wasn't looking and get mad over any guy's name he didn't recognize. It didn't matter that they were just friends or coworkers. In his mind, his sister's lie had some truth to it. And then, as if that wasn't enough, she went and told our pastor. The whole church community started looking at me funny, whispering behind my back. I felt like I was on trial for something I didn't even do. It was humiliating, but it didn't stop there. My fiance's sister, let's call her Miss Medler, decided to throw a party at our place. She invited all these people from our church, and there I was, trying to play the good hostess while feeling everyone's eyes on me. Miss Medler made sure to drop hints about my supposed infidelity. I wanted to scream. In the middle of the party, my fiancé confronted me, right there in front of everyone. He demanded to know why I was so against being intimate with him if I wasn't getting it somewhere else. I was mortified. I tried to explain, but words just failed me. I ran out of that party, out of that house, and didn't stop until I was at my best friend's doorstep, crying my eyes out. My best friend, bless her, let me stay the night. She told me that I needed to stand up for myself, that I couldn't let my fiancé or his sister walk all over me like this. She was right, of course, but it's easier said than done. The next day, I went back home to find my fiancé had calmed down. He apologized, said he knew I wasn't cheating, but his sister had gotten into his head. I wanted to forgive him, I really did, but something inside me just broke. How could he trust her words over mine? We had a long talk, and I laid it all out for him. I told him that his sister had to move out, that we needed space to work on our relationship without her interference. He didn't like it, but he agreed. Miss Medler was furious, of course. She accused me of tearing her brother away from his family, but I stood my ground. It's been a few days since she left, and things are still tense between my fiancé and me. We're trying to rebuild the trust, but it's hard. I keep thinking about how quickly he doubted me, how easily he believed the worst. It's going to take a lot of work to get past this. And just when I thought we might be able to move forward, another bomb dropped. My fiancé lost his job. The company he worked for went under, and just like that, we're in financial trouble. We've been arguing about money, about the wedding, about everything. It's like we're cursed or something. Every time we try to take a step forward, we get knocked 2 steps back. I'm trying to be supportive, but I'm also scared. What if we can't make it through this? What if this is a sign that we're not meant to be? I don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm hanging on by a thread here. Thanks for listening to my rant. It helps to get it all out, even if it's just to a bunch of strangers on the internet. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.